other things, are unified in opposing this war and wanting our senators to stop funding the bloody
Well, I
thing.
want to bring troops home and put them on the border, which you may
Well,
not agree
I don't
with.
want to put them on the border, but I want to bring them home. I want to bring them home before they're dead, you know, and before they kill anybody else.
But we need to go back to the way it was. They allow 200,000 a year in legally with the lottery, and Mexico is the 12th richest country in the world. The third richest person in the world lives in Mexico City and owns their communication system. So,
you know, I think that America has always, you know, we were raised on give me your tired, you're poor. I would like us to be able to welcome people. And I know I tried to bring a student here from Nicaragua legally as a visitor in my home and was unable, and with 3 attempts, to get even a student visa for him. I know they are directly trying to keep out people from Latin America.
I have a daughter-in-law that is half Indonesian, half Swiss. She was raised in Thailand, and she was going to school in Southern Oregon, and she met my son. They wanted to get married, but they wanted to work for a year before they got married. So the day she graduated, she went to turn in her student visa and asked for a work visa. And they said, "Oh, you have to go back to Thailand and wait probably 7 years." So they got married right away, and then they spent $3,000 in 4 years, or 4 years, or 3 years and $4,000 to do it legally and everything. And after they swore him in, they said if you'd gone to Tijuana and walked across, you'd been covered under the amnesty. That's when I got involved in this. The law should be the same for everyone. We should enforce the laws that are on the book right now.
But those people can't come across the border and get legal like your daughter-in-law
No,
did.
but when Reagan offered the amnesty, 10% took it. You know, they didn't want it because this way they become a number, they get taxed, they can't send all this money home.
Why not just let everybody who wants to come in legally, get their social security number, get their citizenship, have the responsibilities of citizens, and then we would have more countries supporting our country.
Well, can we support them anymore? I mean, we're having housing dilemmas, running short on water and everything else now.
We are, you know, we have got so much more than most countries in the world. The fact is the world is overpopulating, and we are the first people who came in and overran this country. And I think now it would behoove us to welcome
But we should have learned something from the Indians
together.
about immigration. Then we should have, but we didn't. And I mean, these rest homes that got the norovirus, and was it Reynolds High School that got it? If you look, and say some simple phone calls, OSHA didn't do it. I called around. They all subcontracted their cooks, and they were all undocumented aliens who didn't have to pass a physical to come in this country.
Right, so let's bring them in legally, let them pass the physical,
But
make
can we
them
support
citizens, and then we can come in. This is the richest country in the world. We can support people if we stop having... Have you looked at the wealth along the Willamette River, the mansions that are down there? If we stop paying the CEOs millions of dollars every year and spread that wealth around, we could support a lot of people in this country. And I think that those of us who are working people and poor people, we need to stick together and say we've got to find a way for everyone to support their
But if you say they can't pay that, then you're going into socialism where you're controlling that. I mean, you have to get the stockholders to say we're not going to do that. We can't.
Right, we can't stop that, but we can support workers. When people are over here just trying to support their families, we can support them in having better wages. And what happens now, when the companies can bring those people in as guest workers, then they're afraid the whole time they're here. They can't organize. We can't get them into unions. We can't help workers in general improve our condition.
But I mean, think about this. I don't want to say it wrong. We're fast becoming a service-oriented country. Fast foods and that. All the jobs are going overseas. The companies are moving there because they can do it cheaper. If we bring all these people in, it's going to drive the wages here down. I agree with you that $35 an hour to pop rivets in a Ford in Detroit is an overkill. There's a lot of people around here that aren't making decent money. But you have others down in Salem, builders, that are paying undocumented $5 an hour instead of the $20 an hour per cop, but they're not lowering the price of the houses either.
Right.
So we need to arrest, convict, and jail the people providing the jobs, the employers. If the jobs aren't here, then they're not going to come to this country. But if the jobs are here, then bring them in legally.
You know what I think our basic problem, you're right, it is a problem with wages, and if there's a real problem with jobs going overseas, and I think the essential problem is that money can cross borders without any restriction. but workers can't.
Yeah.
And as long as the workers can't, then workers can't organize internationally. Money is organized internationally. If the companies are not really American companies anymore,
They're not.
they are really global international companies.
Actually, they're owned by 2 or 3 people.
2 or 3 people. If we can't get together across those artificial borders and organize workers, we're going to continue being in a situation of low-wage, dead-end jobs for most of the people.
But unions had a very strong purpose back when they ran the sweatshops. But when
I need the answer to that
when the
before your
Teamsters
tour is over.
shut down the United States because the truckers want more money, and I'm using that as an example, they have too much power when they shut down the whole United States. But I mean, so we have to hit a medium there.
I wouldn't say unions are perfect.
No,
I'm just
nobody's
saying
perfect.
the essential problem
Yeah,
that workers can't organize across borders and money can. Money can flow across borders and workers can't. As long as we're in that situation, money wins.
But you
and
keep
we
using the
lose.
word borders, and there is a border there, and there's a border there for a reason, because you belong to this country, we belong to this country, and we shouldn't intermingle unless it's done legally.
Right. My question is, why, when we say we belong to a country, I mean, I was raised America's this great land of freedom, etc. I'm proud to be an American, etc. And then I started realizing those borders exist because military powers and economic interests claimed this land, took it away from the Indians, declared it the United States of America, and when you say we belong to the country, I think we need to go back to a situation where the country belongs to us. And part of that, and that needs to happen internationally.
Did you vote last time?
Of course.
Okay, but you know how many people say that did not vote?
Lots of them.
Yeah, and that's the people you got to.
Voting.
That's right.
And you know what? The thing is, these people who are coming in as immigrants, they are mostly poor working people. They understand the inequities between massively wealth capitalists and working people who can't even feed their families.
Okay.
They're folks whose votes we want in this country.
Right now it costs approximately $47,000 and change to keep a convict in the Oregon State Penitentiary at 2501 State Street. Okay, over 1,000 of them are here illegally that we're paying for right now. If they've committed crimes, maybe we ought to send them back to their country to serve their time and pay them. Be a lot cheaper.
Well, the other thing is, let's look at why are we spending all that money on keeping people in prisons? That's a ridiculous waste of money. Why are people going to prisons? If you look at it, most crimes are drug related. Most drug addiction, there aren't treatment facilities for addicts. There aren't jobs. There isn't education.
Where does the drugs come from?
If we could put our kids in decent schools, get them through college, get them decent jobs, we wouldn't have near the problem we've got with the prisons.
But and most people start out on marijuana and drugs. Start there.
Well, most of them start out on milk, actually.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
milk, coffee, cigarettes, and then
Coke,
maybe
cigarette, yeah.
Right,
but,
Coke. Actually, that's the first drug most children start on is sugar.
Yeah, but where does most of the marijuana come from? Oregon is the largest producer in the United States.
That's right. It's
but
our
over
biggest cash crop.
Over 4 million tons come across the border in March, April, and May from Mexico into the United States.
Well, again, if we can't cooperate as countries, the drugs can cross the border, but the people can't. That's a problem.
The Mexican military is helping escort it across. Mexico has a corrupt government. It always has and always will.
The United States does too. Let's face it.
Yeah, but we put them in. We put them in there ourselves.
Trust me, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we say we put them in ourselves, but I don't believe we did.
Well, money put them in there.
Money put them in there. Let's be clear.
That's
money
right,
put
because
them in there.
I can't run for president. Vote for me for president in November.
Right, yeah, right.
And
never mind president. How about city council member?
I live in Salem.
Yeah, well, it takes money to run for office.
I know it.
It does.
Rich people are controlling this country and they're controlling the world.
And
unless poor people can get together,
have
we
you
don't
read
have a chance.
the book Mexifornia by Gary Allen?
No.
That's a very good book. He's a professor in the University of California, Fresno, and it's a good book. It's the third generation of a farm there around Fresno. And
what's it called?
Mexifornia. And it talks about how the professors down there's no professors here, I hope, but they're creating their own curriculum to teach the undocumented aliens how to milk the government and not have to work ever in their lives. They're teaching them that instead of teaching them how to go out and get a job. Okay, I have no problem if they're here. When they came in legally, they had to have, like going to Australia. If you don't have something you contribute to this country, you can't come in there. Okay, but he's teaching that. Another one, Lee Iacocca's new book, talks a lot about what you said about big money and things like that. I mean, that's a very good and it's a blue-collar book, something I can understand, okay? And doesn't Taylor Caldwell, I used to have to read her books with a dictionary.
Yeah, it's nice to have books that are written in plain English.
Yeah, and that's it. You know, we need to get back. I was at a meeting in Salem here a while back where they were talking how to create a bill in the state legislature. When it goes to the House, it goes through 13 steps, and any one step, they can send it back to be rewritten. Well, if it clears all 13 steps, it goes into the Senate, and it goes through 13 steps. At any point, it can be sent back down to here.
Right.
You know, so I raised my hand and said, how does anything get through? He said, well, it does eventually. And I said, why don't we write it in blue-collar language instead of lawyers writing laws for lawyers, write it in blue-collar work language and put it on the ballot, and we won't have to pay all the politicians. Well, after that, they wouldn't even answer. When I raised my hand, they wouldn't even talk to me after
Well,
that.
I mean, that's, what you're saying is our government is not a government of people anymore.
It's a government of lawyers.
It's a government of lawyers, and mostly of wealth. You have to have money to matter. And that's why I am on the side of the immigrants here. Because I know that they are working people, I know they're poor, I know they care about their families, and I like people like that in our community.
Well,
and if we can't work together in some way, we're going to keep having the rich people running the government.
Well, and some of the Hispanics have come across here, and I read a speech here a while back given in L.A., and they said they're going to keep multiplying, and that's how they're going to beat us, And most of those...
Well, I thought that's what the right-wing Christians were doing. I read an article about that, too. They're deliberately having large families so that eventually they can
But the Hispanics aren't having, and when I say Hispanics, that's all of Central and South America, not just Mexico.
Yeah.
And, there's many coming across the northern borders, but they're coming from Europe over. Asia and Hispanics come over the southern borders. But the number of them is overwhelming. They're coming over. Look at how many are on welfare here. If we want to allow them in here, we need to start the WPA and the CCC again, so everybody learns a trade and goes to work.
I'm with you on that. I
And
think starting the
welfare
WPA
was designed.
again,
Welfare
that
was
would be
designed for the
excellent.
80-year-old widow who had no one to support her, and then they had county farms to take care of that.
There should
Can I
be.
interrupt for a second? How does, and this, we're kind of on the same viewpoint, but from opposite spectrums. You say you're for the immigrants because they work hard, but I'm against the illegal immigration because it lowers the standard of living for the young people here who can't find decent jobs because they're struggling to fight with all these immigrants who are coming and working the jobs for as little as possible. When you have an unlimited supply, that's what happens.
And that's a terrible problem. And one of the reasons that it lowers the wages is because as long as those immigrants are illegal, they can't organize. They can't demand fair treatment from their employers. We can't. No, they can't because they get kicked out.
I agree with you.
So that's why I'm saying let's let them in legally. Let's make them citizens, and then we can all work together to deal with the economic problems that are facing all of us.
Well,
Let's try. Again, I was certainly raised to believe that competition is the way of the world. It's certainly the way of the capitalist system.
We don't have
I also learned that in our ancestors, the ape ancestors, the ones that are really the ancestors of human beings are the ones that cooperated. I think if we could start learning more cooperative skills so that all of the people who are workers and can barely support their families could get together, then we might be able to make some changes that would benefit all of us. Instead of just fighting with each other.
I was talking to a Hispanic reporter from Dallas. He was an American, nice guy, down on the border, and he's, we're talking about what could solve this problem. He says you put a 30-foot wall there, and then Mexico will be forced to deal with its own people, and then the problem will clean out. But until as long as they can ship off all their board to the north, then they will continue with the corrupt government.
One of the reasons,
and what I'm saying, if we're going to put a 30-foot wall there, let's put a 30-foot wall so that money can't flow either. Because the problem is, as long as money can cross that border,
it's all about money. The NAFTA jobs, the jobs are taken all out of here.
We have to stop both.
And I think a lot of this whole tension that's going on right now is over money and greed. There's people saying my jobs, my money, my health care. I'm willing to share all this with you guys. I'm willing to share it with illegals. I'm with people.
This is what bothers me. I grew up somewhat of an environmentalist, and back in the 70s, overpopulation was a strong concern. It seemed to be at the forefront. It's gone away, but that's a huge problem.
It is a problem. But you know what? I'm not going to point at you or your family or your upbringings or who you are or anybody any more than I'll point at somebody across the street. We're all here, you know. And I will. There's only so much to go around, but let's make it happen. We're all people. Let's get to the core of it.
Coming up here, live and build a life here. That's one thing. But if they're coming up to work here, send the money home, then you're just taking your economy and moving it to their.
Yeah, but once again, they have families too. I'm concerned about, and I work for my family. You know, I'm not so.
There are 1 million people who live at a lower standard of living in Mexico. Should they all come here too?
Well, if we can help, you know, the world's getting.
Maybe
I mean,
we should just give it all away then.
Well, no, let's share it. Let's share it.
Well,
let's work together. Otherwise, you can have your house on the hill and I'll be down below you. And you can put your wall up, and when I'm hungry and crying.
I'd be happy if you want to.
I'd be happy to go down to Mexico and help them build a society down there. You can't lower the standard. You can't ruin the environment. You can't lower the standard of living here.
Let's work together. Let's not. I don't want to box people out.
Let's make sure people follow the law, and I'll go down there to Mexico and help these people. But they're not going to lower the standard of living for my children and grandchildren and ruin the environment over.
Well, I kind of think that we're pointing the fingers at some of the wrong people that are lowering the standard. Our own government, on our own way, in our own way that we distribute health care and food and jobs. So we've created a problem, and then we look at some other people who are sort of taking from the system, and we point at them and say they're the ones that are ruining it. When really,
who is we that created this problem?
The United States or our government. Our government has created this problem of no health care, a lack of jobs, all these desperate situations, the welfare, the people walking around begging for survival, and then you say, how can we accommodate any of this in our own
walking
people?
around begging for survival.
Well, begging for
signing up for more checks.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't
see. I see more. You know, Caucasian people standing at the end of the freeway.
That's happening. That is happening.
Can I see anybody else?
Yeah. I'm just saying that
everybody else is
people are hungry. People are hurting around us, and I kind of want to help people like that. Myself. I don't say you have to,
We're
but
on the same page. But if you have an unlimited flow of people, we need to take care of the people here first. Once we got our young people and people here living a good quality of life, then sure, let's work it down.
I think you need to stop the flow.
Yeah, the only thing is when you're stopping flow, you're stopping people. You're stopping humans. And when you stop that guy, and I look at you and say, here's some lunch, here's a nice sidewalk you can stand. No, you don't. I don't like to do that. I wouldn't do that to anybody here.
Your house and sat down and said, feed me. You're not going to say.
You know what? I would try to feed you if you came and knocked at my door.
20 people came in.
Well, I would try. I'd maybe organize with some of my other friends and try to feed you.
1,000 people.
Well, let's work it. Let's work it. Let's try to work, because I'm not going to pick and choose. And I know you can box it in. You can say this is a border.
The better thing would be to make Mexico and South America deal with the problem.
It would be nice if they dealt with it a little better than they are. But I'm on the compassionate end here, though. That's all.
Compassion goes a few ways. I'm compassionate too, but I want to protect the children, the poor children in this country.
Yeah. But let's not pick and choose so much. I mean, that's what.
There are borders and there are laws to follow. And you just can't say, "Let me."
Are we not picking? You're already picking and choosing.
All people. No, all people.
You're already picking and choosing that you're working for your family. You're picking your family first.
I'm working for everybody's people. I'm out here to help and document and try to make a better world for everybody.
Sure. Well,
you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. And not so much by the, is the border okay? Is the prison strong enough? I'm not really concerned about is the prison big enough or strong enough. I'm concerned about, do you have food today? Are you healthy? Are you cold? Are you hungry? That's kind of where I'm trying to help. And if you don't got a card or the right document, I don't care about that really. Now maybe some people do. There are people that do care about that, but I don't. I'm more concerned about, do you have food or can I?
What about the environment?
I care about the environment.
So
it's going to get destroyed in the process.
They're talking another 100 million people within.
Well, I'm encouraging people not to really have more kids right now anyway. I mean, it's dismal, the outlook, all across the border. But, both sides.
See it that way.
Yeah.
Here in America, most everybody, one way or the other, is forced to support their own children.
Yeah.
Down there, you're going to just be forced to support unlimited children. Unlimited.
You know what? I need to run too. I need to run. Nice talking with you guys. Let's all try to make it. Let's just try to get along. Yeah.